We received a call from the Water Authority indicating that they had found the body of a child in the canal.
I'm praying that he's still alive.
We recovered the body of a small child whose physical description and clothing description matches that of our kidnapping victim.
I don't want to know what happened. I just want him back.
It's very difficult to find the body of a child and have to remove that child from the canal.
I think that Jose might have dumped his car and somebody's helping him.
We're going to continue to treat this as a homicide investigation, and he is a suspect and is wanted by authorities.
He just knocked on the door, and I opened the door, and I'm like, what are you doing here? You know, it's 7 o'clock in the morning. My son's asleep. You know, I told him, you need to get out of here. And then he just, like, put his head down and walked away, and he didn't say nothing. I believe he went to the school after I had taken off to work. He waited a little while before he went to the school. He came back to my house after I had left to work, and he made his way in the house and told my mom, oh, I just came to tell Juliani bye. And then my mom pushed him out of the house, and he said, bye, papas, and then he took off. But then later that day, he came back, and that's when he took him.
We are taking your calls out to the lines. Christine in North Carolina. Hi, Christine.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, dear. What's your question?
I just wanted to tell you that if I could meet somebody in person, it would be you. And my question is, how long have they been split up from each other, and was she letting him see the child?
That's a very good question. What about it, Ellie Jostad?
See, they'd been broken up for about 5 or 6 months, and the mother, Tabitha, actually told us the reason they broke up is because he was violent towards her. She says that he beat her, he held her, almost held her hostage overnight, wouldn't let her leave the house. She says that's when she called police, that's when she told him to get out of her life.
You know, just looking at the shots, Ellie, of this little boy, we had all hoped so much that he would be found alive, somehow squirreled away. But that was not meant to be. It seems as if the violence just escalated and escalated into this. And of course, Ellie, this isn't our first failed murder-suicide attempt. Let's take a look. There's Julie Schenecker, accused of shooting her 2 children to death for being mouthy. We just discussed that last night. Last night we discussed Schenecker's case, gunning down her 16-year-old girl, her 13-year-old boy. She planned to kill herself, but that didn't quite happen. Andrea Yates killed all 5 of her children, claimed she was going to commit suicide. She didn't. Deanna Laney, rock mom, claimed God ordered her to kill her 3 sons and then herself, but somehow she never made it to herself. Then there's Neil Entwistle, shot his wife and infant daughter to death. He didn't manage to pull off the suicide either. Shaquan Dooley killed her 2 toddler sons, then rolled the car into a river with their bodies inside, claiming she was going to commit suicide. Yeah, she didn't. To Dr. Lillian Glass, psychologist, body language expert. Lillian, why do they all say they were going to kill themselves, but they end up just killing their children?
It's very peculiar. I mean, some of them do succeed, but some of them are just so filled with rage. And when you look at this mother, your heart just goes out to her when you see and hear her anguish. And when the worst thing about this, Nancy, is the little boy called him Poppy. He loved his stepfather or the boyfriend, and to feel so betrayed. I mean, this is the worst possible thing that's happened here. The betrayal, this innocent little boy feeling so betrayed here and now dead.
We are taking your calls. For those of you just joining us, the search for little Juliani has come to an end. His body has been found about 30 miles away in that same canal where the perpetrator's vehicle was found. In a stunning twist, though, no perp. A murder warrant has issued for Jose Esteban Rodriguez, the mother's ex-boyfriend. Unleash the lawyers. Joining us tonight out of Miami, Hugo Rodriguez. Out of Atlanta, defense attorney Raymond Giudice. Wherever he is, Ray Judice, he better keep running, because California is not afraid of the death penalty.
Well, there's a reason that the sheriffs have left the warrants open and haven't shut them down or quashed them. There is maybe some evidence that he got out of the car in time or swam out of the car, leaving the poor child to die, and that he is still on the run. Nancy, I want to raise one quick thing, going back to the daycare. Many states place a burden, a legal burden, on daycare workers, teachers, medical professionals, that if they see some evidence of child abuse or child endangerment, they are to report it. Even though the child wasn't handed over to him when he came to daycare, that was such a dangerous and unusual situation, they may have had a legal obligation to report that to law enforcement.
Well put, Ray Judice. What about the perp, Rodriguez?
Obviously, all the evidence is focusing on him. If he's found, they will strongly prosecute him. Again, we don't know if he was in that car. We don't know if he just pushed it in like some other parents have done to their children and some other people, but they're going to keep that warrant open, and they're going to gather as much evidence as they can so that they can successfully prosecute him if he's located.
And in my mind, to Judice and Rodriguez, he was so angry at the mother for rejecting him. Finally, after years of violence, he took the one thing that she loved the very most,
And
the baby boy.
That's your motive.
And let
Now,
me
you want to
reject
tell me, the two of you, I'm sure you're about to tune up. Second verse, same as the first. He was insane. I can't believe it took you 36 minutes to consider it. Go ahead, Judice.
Nancy, I'm about to say exactly the opposite. The just snap defense is not going to work here.
Yeah.
This is a pattern of behavior. It would be a very difficult defense, not impossible, because we still don't have crystal clear evidence that he committed the homicide. But on a kidnapping, there is no such thing as a just snapped and I kidnapped somebody defense.
What about it, Rodriguez?
I have to agree there. This is planned out. It was premeditated. He thought this through. This isn't a spur of the moment. I'm going to lock this child into the car,
well, all I can
drive
say
him
is
into
somebody
there.
call a doctor quick, because these two must be sick. It's the first time I have not heard them say insanity ever in the history of their appearances on the show. Speaking of a doctor, to Dr. Robert Kaufman, Doctor of Internal Medicine, joining us tonight. Dr. Kaufman, as always, thank you for being with us. Dr. Kaufman, explain to me what they'll have to go through to positively identify the body.
Well, as they said, it was DNA, but you would think about dental records. But the child, being 4 years old, may not have been to a dentist, so we wouldn't have any dental records to compare it to. But typically, they'll take all different types of body samples and then do a DNA analysis and then identify the body.
And in your mind, Dr. Kaufman, I know they're saying 3 weeks, but would that be because of some backlog there? Because DNA does not take 3 weeks.
I've never heard it take 3 weeks. I would hope they would put that to the top of the list and get that done as soon as possible.
Yeah, you know, that's easy for us to say because we're involved in this case. We care about this case. But there are other people out there waiting on DNA, too. So I don't think they'd take to it very kindly for any case to be put in front of theirs. Joining me right now, Pat Brown, criminal profiler, author of The Profiler. Pat Brown, weigh in.
Well, Nancy, first of all, these people that kill their children and say they were going to commit suicide are just liars. They simply don't want to commit suicide. They want their kids out of there, and they want a lot of sympathy. Then you have the kind of people who do intend to commit suicide with the person the child they're getting rid of, but maybe they panic at the last minute, which could have happened in this case. He could have gone into the river, into the canal. The child died, and he was able to swim away when the water hit him. He freaked out. And the second part is he just did go into that canal with his child, and he's there.
Mark Class, president and founder of Class Kids Foundation, is joining us out of San Francisco tonight. Mark, what do you believe?
Well, first of all, regarding the DNA, I know that the California DNA lab is overtaxed and underfunded, so that might account for the time problem there. I believe that, number one, the windows were down when he went into the canal because they were tinted windows, yet the farm worker saw a man and a child in the car. I also believe that that farm worker should have acted more quickly than he did. The possibility exists that if he had jumped into the canal immediately upon seeing that he could have saved the child. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that they're going to find Rodriguez's rotting corpse somewhere in that canal in the very near future. And I agree with you completely and totally. This was an act of pure vengeance driven by hate. And unfortunately, he got what he wanted and left the family in ruins.
I'm annoyed that Mark feels that the farm worker should have jumped in the canal. Number one, we don't even know if the farm worker could swim. Number two, it's been clear that that canal is extremely dangerous, that the current is very, very strong, and that it's very, the water is very, very deep, that car went down in the water so quickly and traveled while it was down in the water. I mean, I'm tired of hearing the farm worker should have done this or should have done that. If he had a cell phone on him and dialed 911, by the time anybody got there, everybody in the vehicle would have been dead anyway, sadly. And if the farm worker would have jumped in, he would have died also. I mean, everybody's trying to blame somebody else for what Jose did. Neither one of them could have been saved.